We're waiting for the ribbon cutting moment as we open Lilian Ngoyi Street. Let's listen in. All right, talk about the nick of time. These are visuals for you from what is now Lilian Ngoyi Street, formerly known as Bree Street, that's now officially been reopened as part of phase one of the rehabilitation project. We've been speaking about this for much of the morning, of course, and there's great anticipation now to see what this newly refurbished street actually looks like, given the delays around its reopening that have lasted now almost 2 years. You might remember there was a massive methane gas explosion there that left one person dead, more than 40 others injured, and since then it's really been much of a stop-start affair. I'm going to ask perhaps that we stay with the story as much as we can, because it seems like there's going to be some kind of great reveal of the street itself, and in fact already reports emerging that many of the businesses along that busy route have been waiting with bated breath to see how it looks like. Let's bring up some of those visuals for you to get you a sense of how the street is actually looking now that it's been refurbished. These are the first occupants, if you like, of people who are moving into that once very busy part of the inner city, involving journalists, of course. And there's going to be a big reveal, I imagine, of the street itself, which is no longer tarred, but it seems there's been some kind of paving that is going to replace the tar on that particular route. Joburg Mayor Dada Morero speaking a short while ago, earlier this morning, in fact, about what it's taken to get here. But there are still many unanswered questions, including perhaps some of the costs associated with getting the street reopened once again. From where I'm sitting, I'm not really sure if we're able to get to the bottom of how the explosion happened. I mean, we were told it was methane gas that seemed to have leaked from the infrastructure underground, but it doesn't seem that there's been at least any accountability since then to get to the bottom of at least how we can prevent a repeat of something like this once again. But nonetheless, I imagine much of the focus is going to be around the streets being reopened, and it seems there's a bit of a guard of honor for the city of Joburg's officials, who are amongst the first to drive on the newly reopened Lilian Ngoyi Street that had been closed now for close to 2 years due to that devastating gas explosion. We're going to try to stay with this as much as we can. Hopefully we'll be able to get you the money shot, as it were, of the street itself, to get you a sense of what it looks like, given the anticipation, of course, around that very moment. But you can only just imagine, by the way, as we take all of this in, just how devastating this has been for many of the surrounding businesses there, which have had to close because, frankly, there hasn't been enough foot traffic after the closure of this particular road. We are yet, I think, to quantify the costs associated with that, given just how long-standing the problem has been. Once again, this is just phase one of the reopening, and in fact, we'll hopefully get a sense for you of what the other phases entail. But phase one, it seems, at the very least, involves the route itself being reopened. And in fact, we imagine that part of this will also make it much easier, especially for taxis that frequented this particular area, to finally be able to move around the inner city. This is just one of several problems, of course, that have been facing the inner city for quite some time. Mbali is our reporter there. Let's try and listen in as she speaks to the mayor and gets his reaction.
Ayanda, thank you so much. Mr. Mayor, today is a very special day in the lives of Johannesburg residents. Since 2023, residents have been waiting for the conclusion and the completion of phase one and possibly phase two. But Mayor, I've seen a few questions. Why is it paved and why is it not tar?
Well, you know the concept of a complete street. So we thought, let's bring the concept together. We're extending the pavements. And the whole idea is to allow for motorists, allow for pedestrians and everyone to have better usage of the road, that the road is not only used by vehicles. And that is why we moved the concept away from your normal tar into paving to allow that a mixture of use. As you have said, this is the first phase. We're doing the second phase, so that the entire road will look completely different and allow for movement, allow for economic activity to take place, at the same time allow for transport to move through, and also allow for residential to take place. So only concern we have with one building that is an hijacked building in this road, which we are now prioritizing and putting on our agenda to deal with it immediately so that we can actually restore this road as part of the rejuvenation of the city.
Now, when you speak of hijacked buildings, I mean, the one building is not the only one. Are there plans to then, try and do away with the concept of illegally occupied buildings in the whole of Johannesburg? And how will you go about doing that? And how many of those evacuation orders that were granted by the courts have you been able to then implement?
We are continuing implementing evacuation orders. Of course, the only problem that we are resolving now is what we call temporary accommodation. Once we have dealt with that holistically, the program will move much, much faster. The building that I'm referring to now is almost 100% illegal and undocumented foreigners, so we'll be having the opportunity to act much faster on this building as part of restoration of Lilian Ngoyi Road, and we are going to do so to ensure that this road becomes a beautiful road as we have conceptualized, and come 2026 August we'll have a fully fledged Lilian Ngoyi.
Now, Mayor, with regards to the paving, right, we know that the reason this road was damaged was because of the methane explosion that took place in 2023. Has that been taken into account? Is that the reason why you've chosen paving, so that if in the event that there is an explosion of that nature, we don't have the same damage? What is the rationale again?
Well, engineers and technicians are not expecting an explosion to happen. As I said, the reason we moved to that is to have the nice and feel of the road, to change it, make it more nicer, make it accessible to pedestrian, to motorists and everybody, so that it's not only acceptable or friendly to motorists. That is why we said it's better we do it this way. And I think our engineers, technicians and everybody are convinced that we'll probably not have an explosion. They've ensured whatever pipes and infrastructure underneath. They've also restored the tunnels that are there underneath. So everything we think underneath is proper now, and hopefully will not experience an explosion into the future.
Okay. Now, Mayor, going forward then, we understand that the road will officially be open later on this month, on the 12th of September. And this project has been characterized by somewhat delays, right? And is this really... Did you make the deadline that you set for yourself, or can we still say that there's still some delays because the road is still not going to be open to the public just yet?
It's just small issues that the contractors are completing, the sidewalks and everything. The project is done. The road is ready. I mean, you saw the cars are ready to move up and down. It's just finalizing the sidewalks. Once you have done that, that's why I'm saying smaller issues by the 12th, it will be fully used by motorists and pedestrians alike. So it should be a proper. So it's not a delay now. We wanted to launch it on the 1st to say we've completed the work. It's just minor issues that have to be done. On the 12th, you can come and drive, you can come walk, you can open your businesses. There's a whole lot of things that you'll be able to do. Businesses are already operational, some of them, as of today. So we think that we have met the target that we have set ourselves.
And just for the benefit of our viewers, what is remaining are the sidewalks, because phase 1 was the closing of the tunnels and covering the tunnels and fixing the road, which we see is fine. But what phase 2 are the pavements, and that's what's still remaining.
Yeah, it's beautifying of the whole road.